Visual clutter refers to the overwhelming presence of disorganized or excess items in a space that disrupts the appearance and creates a sense of chaos. And if you have kids, it doesn't matter how tidy or organized you are, visual clutter creeps in. And fast. Hi, if you're new here, I am Kallie, also known as That Practical Mom, and I'm a mom of 4 sharing practical life tips to simplify the chaos. One thing that never ceases to amaze me in parenthood is the speed at which clutter-free, tidy spaces can become a space that feels chaotic and messy when you add kids to the mix. Here's a look at my dining room table before the morning breakfast, off to school rush, and here it is only 45 minutes later. The thing is, kids are not naturally tidy or organized. Their brains are still in the early stages of developing executive function skills, which include things like organization and impulse control. The prefrontal cortex is an area that's responsible for these functions, and it doesn't fully mature until early adulthood. So, while as parents we can work to teach our kids to be tidy, to put their things back where they go, to clean up when they are done, we also have to remember that they developmentally have less ability than us. It's like letting 2 people race, but one of them gets to have a bike. And I bring this up to start because while yes, we should be teaching our children the fundamentals of cleaning and being organized and tidy, we also shouldn't hold them to the same standards that we hold ourselves, because I don't think it's fair to them or to us. Now, I'm sure I'm like a lot of moms where I love to embrace the sentiment of saying, don't mind the mess, the kids are growing and learning here, or saying, leave the mess for another time, they're only little ones. But I also personally don't function well in a space that is utter chaos. I know that I'm not alone. My brain cannot concentrate in it. And that is because visual clutter increases our mental load by overstimulating our brain, leading to feelings of stress, distraction, anxiety, and generally making it harder to focus, relax, and be productive on everyday tasks. So instead, in parenthood, we should look for balance. It's not about removing all of the visual clutter. I love some of it. I like walking into a house and seeing my kids' art and seeing some of their stuff out. It makes my house feel happy. I am not looking to erase the presence of children from my home. I am simply looking to find a balance where the chaos of their stuff doesn't impact my own mental load. And I cannot say that I have this balance down perfectly, but having 4 kids in 6 years definitely forced me to figure things out kind of quickly. And so I'm going to share with you the things that generally work for us to help us reduce the mess and visual clutter in our life. First up is having a designated area for toys. This is having an area in your home where toys belong. This does not mean that you need to have an entire playroom, but just a designated spot. So this can be a shelf in the back of the living room, a chest of drawers in the entryway. The idea here is that when you do tidy and put away, all the toys can go back to one designated area instead of having to be strewn out about your main living area. This allows you to physically remove the visual clutter of toys from a space. So sometimes when I'm tidying up, the best I can do is just take all of the kid stuff and return it to the designated spot. I might not be getting to organizing that spot, but at least the kid stuff is out of our main living area and it's all in one spot. My main living area now feels more light and decluttered because of it. Personally, for me, when I clean, specifically at the end of the day, I start by clearing surfaces. And this really just has to do with getting things back to where they belong. It's not about perfectly organizing those spaces, but I like to think of it as like sweeping my space of stuff. And so I'm sweeping those things in the general direction where they belong. Dishes are going to the sink, but I'm not washing the dishes. Dirty laundry is going to the basket or the laundry room, but I'm not running loads right now. Toys are going back to their designated toy area, but I'm not organizing the toy area. I really just think about it as getting things to their locations and then I can tend to them. And that's why a designated toy area really works so well. Next up is obviously keeping the designated toy area as minimal as possible. So whether you have a playroom or just a shelf, keeping on top of this designated area can be key. And I always suggest toy rotation of some kind. This means that not all of our toys are out at one time. In general, we try to keep our top 4 or 5 main toys out. So for my kids, this is magnet tiles, Tony box, books, trains, cars, and art supplies. This allows a few bins or baskets for general, miscellaneous toys, overflow, and these miscellaneous baskets can rotate out toys every few days or every few weeks. The rest of the toys live somewhere else, like shelves in the garage or bins in the basement or a spare closet. Kids can't and do not play with all of their toys all the time. And studies have proven time and time again that they get overwhelmed with too much stuff, just like we do. Offering less in a more organized environment almost always leads to longer, more engaged play. It's also very beneficial to see what toys our kids actually are playing with. When you rotate something out and then it's not asked for or inquired about for a long time, it could cue you in that maybe this is something that you no longer need, and it could be time to hand this toy down or donate it. Next up, using drop zones for kid stuff. Along with having designated areas for kid toys, you need designated spots for other kids stuff, because kids come with more than just toys. They come with shoes and socks and backpacks and lunchboxes and school papers and special water bottles and jackets, and you get the point. Drop zones, like designated toy areas, create a specific location so that these things don't just end up on the floor, dining room table, or counters. Okay, wait, let me say that again. They may end up on the floor, dining room tables, or kitchen counters, but they still have a specific spot that they belong, so they can easily be put away. Drop zones are great because they're awesome for starting to lay some cleaning and organization fundamentals for your kids. While kids are not developmentally ready to be as tidy as us, they are capable, and they do love routines and predictability. So when the same things always go to the same place and the same things are expected of them, it sets them up for success. We keep all of our shoes in our house for the kids in one place, literally one spot in our entire house. There is no question for me or my kids where shoes should go or where shoes are when they are looking for them. And when they can't find their shoes, I can remind them, this is why we put our shoes back when we take them off, because then we always know where they are. Point is, kids come with a lot of stuff, so having designated areas just makes it easier to manage for them and for us. Again, it's about creating that shortcut in our brain. Consider having a specific area just for arts and crafts. Personally, I have found that keeping arts and crafts in our toy area was a disaster. In our mind, it makes sense because it's like a kid thing and keep it with like kid activities. I found that arts and crafts and toys get mixed together, and arts and crafts tend to have a lot of little pieces and tools, and when it gets mixed up with toys, it quickly becomes impossible to manage. So I like to keep arts and crafts in a totally separate area so that it's not mixing in with toys. Multi-purpose furniture can be one of your best friends to store things without the excess visual clutter. We have this huge beanbag type ottoman that we actually use to fill all with my kids' random stuffed animals that they can't seem to part with, but they don't always need. We have storage ottomans in our mudroom for overflow outdoor gear that doesn't fit into our lockers, but it doubles as a spot where my kids can tie their shoes. Our master bedroom, the bed opens up, and it's actually where I store all of our extra linens and blankets because we do not have a linen closet in our home. Next, lower your expectations. Listen, if you are looking for a Pinterest perfect, you are gonna need to wait until the kids move out. Don't set yourself up for failure. Even Marie Kondo has admitted that she can't keep things perfectly tidy with kids. You can give yourself a little grace here. You can definitely keep things tidier and remove visual clutter, but shooting for magazine worthy every day is just going to leave you defeated, and being left defeated is going to lead to you saying it's hopeless. So lower the bar. We have lockers for my kids, which personally I love. And I'd love if they looked organized all the time, but the truth is they don't. Most days, the best that we get is shoes on the bottom, jackets hanging up, ideally hanging, don't hold your breath, and then random stuff on the top. Do I think that apartment therapy is going to call me anytime soon to take photos of my locker organization? No, they are not. But are my kids' shoes corralled off the floor? Do we know where our jacket is when it needs to go on? Do we have a spot to hide away our backpack after school? Do we have a no fuss spot for our outdoor gear? Yes, yes, and yes. It is not picture perfect, but is achieving what we need. The point is, sometimes it's okay to lower the expectation if you are getting what you need out of something. My next tip is to get good about letting go of excess. Obviously, less stuff means less visual clutter. This is not brain science, I get it, right? Getting rid of stuff will decrease the visual clutter. It is easier said than done. With kids stuff, there is always excess, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, kids just come with a lot of their own stuff, just like we have our own stuff. My 5-year-old currently has a collection of seeds that he is trying to propagate on our windowsill in our kitchen. They look horribly ugly, but he is very dedicated to them. He checks them daily and waters them daily and is learning a lot. I'm not about to tell him to chuck it all out just because I think it's ugly. My 3-year-old has a bucket that she affectionately calls her rock collection, and she gifts rocks to any and all house guests. Again, you think I'm gonna throw that out? Fat chance. The second layer with kid stuff is sentimental stuff. These are things that we feel like we can't let go of as parents, because parenthood will make you sappy and sentimental about some of the strangest things. But all of that aside, you can still work on practicing cutting off the fat when it comes to the excess of toys and kid stuff. Kid clutter, like with all clutter, sometimes accumulates simply because the extra step of having to decide if it should be parted with or not is too much, and so we simply keep it for the sake of keeping it. So you kind of have to trick your brain into doing it. My favorite way to do this is by using a 10-minute alarm. I set an alarm on my phone, and for 10 minutes I have just one goal, and that is get rid of excess. It allows me to stay on track and not get distracted distracted with organizing or tidying. It is simply a time to go through my house or pick a specific area in my house like a drawer or a shelf and purge what is no longer needed. Is it broken? Has it lost parts that make it work? Do my kids actually play with it? Have they played with it in the last year? When they do play with it, is it for a long period of time, or are they simply spilling out on the floor and moving on to something else? Is it old papers I don't need anymore? The point is, have designated times every week where you are dedicated to just focusing on purging the excess. Okay, before we end, let's talk about getting kids involved in cleaning and removing excess. Like I said, we have to understand that kids have developmental restrictions when it comes to organization, so we do have to lower our expectations, but this also isn't just about saying kids will be kids and not trying to instill some organization fundamentals in them. Kids thrive on routine, so start there. When my kids get home, we work on putting shoes away. It's a simple routine, and the location where they go is always the same. It's an easy, small win for them. When my kids get dressed, they know where the laundry baskets are, and they're reminded to put their laundry basket in the basket. I really focus on creating intrinsic motivation for keeping things tidy. While I'm not above the occasional, okay, I need you to clean up your playroom before we have a snack bribe, I try to keep tidying as a general care task. It's something we do simply because it's what we do. I remind them that shoes go away so tomorrow we can find them. And if tomorrow comes and they cannot find their favorite shoes, I make sure to remind them that this is why we put them away. Sometimes it feels like a lost cause, and I get it, but I promise it's not. Repetition is key, and it truly eventually sinks in. It might not sink in every single day, always and forever, but I'm happy with even a 45% success rate, wouldn't you be? I also actively let my kids see me cleaning. It isn't something reserved for when they're asleep or out of the house. I make it a point to say first I need to clean up from breakfast and then I can read a book. I remind them that I'm cleaning up the stuff in my home because it's important that we take care of our things that we love so that they'll last. Again, you're just laying some foundations and groundwork here. Don't think that this is going to create little organizers overnight. If that was the case, my husband would be cleaner. Ooh, a husband cleaning joke. How novel, I know. I also have my kids participate in mini short tidies. While they aren't ready to naturally just organize and tidy as they go, they're absolutely capable of picking up after themselves, particularly in small bursts. So before we transitioned to something fun, say going for a family walk, or maybe it's Saturday and we're having movie night, the kids can help tidy first. It gives them some onus of their own messes and, again, sets the foundation and groundwork of organization. All right, my friends, that does it. Some of the things that we do in our house to help reduce some of the visual clutter and visual noise of having kids. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Remember to be kind to yourself and others, and I will see you all in my next video.